Shall we play a game?
Fight all you want, you old fool. You're merely delaying the inevitable.
Thank you for a very enjoyable game.
Thanks for tuning in. Starting off round 2, we have the Average Joes taking on Team Megabyte for the first match. Starting off, we have a revenge match with Terrbear against KillerBot, fighting it out on Python. Then CudleZerg will do battle with Stardust on Empire of the Sun. CrossToss faces off against Halo on Powerbomb, and CudleZerg vs tscmoo rounds out the fourth match. Currently, Team Megabyte tied in the rankings for third place. Will they be able to move up at all, or will the Average Joes keep them on the back foot like they did in round 1? Time to find out. Starting now. And starting the first game of round 2 off on Python, we have KillerBot for Team Megabyte spawning in the 2 o'clock, and the Average Joe's Terrbear spawning at the 8 o'clock. Currently, these two players have played before in round 1. Terrbear was able to secure the win. We'll have to see if KillerBot maybe changes his play up now that it's played against Terrbear once before, or if it just goes with the same build that it's been doing. For now, everything pretty standard. Just droning, SCVing. All the usual suspects are here. Probably see a depot coming out of Terrbear soon. In fact, moving that SCV out. And throwing down that depot. Meanwhile, Overlord almost halfway done for KillerBot. KillerBot sending out a drone cross spawn, may potentially find Terrbear immediately. Was not able to scout him with his Overlord because obviously he's not in the 12 o'clock. Actually maybe deciding to check the bottom portion here. Meanwhile, Terrbear adding the barracks. Imagine KillerBot will be sending the hatchery. Yep. Making the hatchery now. Does have the drone in, however, taking some damage from that SCV. And the drone immediately getting caught in the mineral line, instantly killed. Unable to really get any scouting information outside of a gas being taken. Meanwhile, starting the pool for KillerBot. Terrbear attempting to scout. Unable to find KillerBot in that position. Meanwhile, the barracks is finished. Marines are making. And he started mining his gas. What, pray tell, could that be for? Meanwhile, KillerBot doing the immediate same, starting his gas production. Natural hatchery almost finished. Terrbear opting to immediately scout the 6 o'clock position out of order, thinking maybe he has discovered exactly where KillerBot is based on when that drone showed up. However, not realizing that KillerBot sent that drone out way earlier than normal and is across the map. KillerBot moving up that Overlord, trying to get any information that he can. Meanwhile, factory 75% of the way done for Terrbear. Do you have a sunken morphing? Is going to catch that SCV. Actually does not. Is able to get up due to the high ground advantage. Does see the lair. Drone trying to take a pop shot as that drone SCV passed by it. Is attacking the gas now for some reason. Meanwhile, catching the Overlord again out in the natural. Nowhere for KillerBot to run it. Is going to lose that. Will it supply block him this time? Marines taken down shortly. And it is able to supply block KillerBot this time. Meanwhile, Spire started. Roughly 10% done. Does have a drone that appears to be trying to build something, however, keeps getting blocked by the larva. And meanwhile, 2 starports just finished for Terrbear. Is starting a control tower on one and starting a Wraith in the other. Will these Wraith arrive in time to take out these Mutalisks or even Overlords before the Mutalisks hatch? Terrbear, meanwhile, seeing everything basically with this SCV, is coming down here and is able to see the Overlord, or excuse me, is able to see the Spire, and immediately starting that engineering bay. Has 2 more Wraiths started. Meanwhile, KillerBot still going for the Mutalisk play. Has just the bare minimum amount of drones. And the Spire just finished. Is supply blocked again, however. Is able to make a few Mutalisks, it looks like. Starting an Overlord. Meanwhile, we do have 2 more Wraiths about to come out to total to 3, and we have Cloak started. The engineering bay is done, however, turrets have not been started. And Terrbear, moving out with these Wraiths, may potentially run into this flock of mutas. And they do actually end up engaging in the center. However, KillerBot running his Mutalisks around the Wraiths. Meanwhile, Terrbear frantically trying to start turrets back at his main, producing more Wraiths. Cloak, 80% of the way done, is about to take out his first Overlord. And the second Overlord, supply blocking KillerBot, is going to run these mutas around. However, Terrbear more than willing to engage. However, KillerBot trying to run them away isn't going to get that muta away, however, and immediately losing these Overlords that he just remade at his natural. KillerBot swarming around these turret lines, trying to find any weaknesses that he can to take advantage of. And meanwhile, Terrbear just killing anything and everything that he can get his hands on. Killing the drones, killing the Overlords, killing any Mutalisks that happen to pop out. However, KillerBot able to take out a few turrets, send a couple more in the red. However, has to back off now that that one is finished. Does have one extremely hurt muta, but for the most part, the others are fairly healthy. Terrbear seems content to stay on this one base and pump race, blowing up all of the Overlords and the drones. Meanwhile, KillerBot still trying to make his way in, has potentially found a way in the back. Not much turret coverage there. Work on these depots, it looked like, a little bit. Terrbear adding even more turrets, knowing that if he just holds off this Mutaflock, his race should be able to take out basically all of KillerBot's main and the natural. Is able to escape one Overlord, though. Meanwhile, these mutas coming back in, able to hit the workers just a tiny bit with these glaive bounces off the depot. However, unfortunately able to take any hits right now, or excuse me, get any kills with that right now. And these Wraiths will fly over that Overlord. However, Terrbear apparently not noticing. Meanwhile, Terrbear has, CudleZerg has lost all of the drones that he has. Has no more money to make. Has one drone that just hatched. However, immediately picked down by these hungry Wraiths. And meanwhile, his Mutaflock, unfortunately unable to really engage, has been picking at this depot just a tiny bit. However, immediately might be able to finally kill off this depot. Has not gained any worker kills, though, it looks like. Or maybe one worker kill. One or two, maybe. Meanwhile, though, KillerBot's last chance This Mutaflock now being engaged by the Wraith fleet, trying to run around. However, these Wraiths being moving shot all over the Mutalisks. These Mutalisks cannot get away. Oh my goodness. And the Wraiths taking out everything. The only thing KillerBot has right now is this Overlord. Maybe weighing its options before it decides what's to do. Oh, and with that, we have a GG. And with Terrbear deflecting, KillerBot's attempted to hatch Muta again, but with Wraiths instead of a Rax push this time, puts the Joes on the scoreboard with 1 point. How will CudleZerg face off against Stardust on the Empire of the Sun? Time to find out, starting now. And starting the match out here on Empire of the Sun, we have CudleZerg in the top left, 11 o'clock position, and Stardust down here in the bottom left, 5 o'clock position. Stardust, one of the best bots around basically, currently ranked number 2 at the time of this recording on the Basil ladder, which is a ladder where all the bots basically play each other non-stop all day. And then on the Schnell ladder, it is actually currently ranked as the highest bot with the verse human play. However, will CudleZerg be able to overcome this? Does he have a special build possibly prepared for Stardust? Only time will tell. So far though, everybody just working standard, getting their primary workers started. Do have a pylon in the natural from Stardust, and an Overlord starting soon for CudleZerg, I imagine. Yep, Overlord starting right now. Stardust is going to be able to immediately scout out CudleZerg. Love to see if Stardust opts for a forge or a gateway at its natural pylon. Instantly seeing everything that CudleZerg has though. CudleZerg seemingly opting for a 12 hatch, it looks like. And we have a forge out of Stardust as natural. CudleZerg actually opting for a 12 pool. Very interesting. Wonder what he plans on doing with that. 12 pool, of course, considered one of the best economic tech openings that you can create. Mainly seen in ZVZ, so not usually seen in ZVP. Having some drone versus probe micro. That probe almost about to die. However, is able to sneak back by. And CudleZerg opting to make his natural hatchery. So far, no cannons or Nexus out of Stardust. Just going up to 14 probes and then just hanging tight. However, is now sending out a probe. Meanwhile, it looks like CudleZerg able to kill off that scouting probe that came into his mineral line. Stardust immediately throwing down 2 cannons and then a Nexus. CudleZerg has still not scouted out Stardust. However, 2 Lings moving out, possibly to scout where the starting location is of the Protoss player. And meanwhile, adding on that gateway, finishing off the wall for his Force Fast Expand. And that Ling is going to run right into these cannons. Meanwhile, CudleZerg, despite opting for a fast pool, is just now starting his lair. Core going up for Stardust. Nexus about to finish. And CudleZerg adding a sunken in his natural. First Zealot popping out for Stardust. And the Nexus finally finishing. I imagine we'll transfer some probes here in a second. Meanwhile, both players opting to make seemingly economic openings. CudleZerg even taking his natural gas. Has decided to keep that third hatchery at his natural instead of taking a third when facing a Forge Fast Expand like normal. And with the layer almost finished, we're going to have to see what tech path that CudleZerg wants to go on. And he is going down Mutas. Stardust. Stargate about 75% finished. We'll be able to probably scout that spire before CudleZerg is able to make any sort of mutalist production or get his mutas into the main. Meanwhile, has not added any real workers at the natural, just opting to choose the gas and kind of over gathering there with 4 probes. Really wants his gas. Adding on the Citadel. +1, 25% of the way done. CudleZerg just adding on some extra Jones as this spire finishes. About 75% of the way done. We do have our first Corsair out. And immediately going right to the Zerg's main. Does immediately see that spire. Let's see what reaction Stardust wants to do. Meanwhile, Corsair starting to work on some overlords. Not unfortunately have any Scourge or anything to take care of this lone Corsair. Stardust starting to move probes around to get his cannons made. Making some extra cannons as well in his mineral line. Adding 3 cannons in the main total, and then as well as with the 2 cannons he originally made as part of the Forge Fast Expand, while adding an additional 2 in his natural. Have a few more Corsairs rolling around. Might be able to see these mutas coming, however. Does have a couple Scourge, those immediately turning around, trying to make connections with these Corsairs. Is able to take out one and severely damage the other. However, with another Corsair popping out and these 3 cannons, not really much CudleZerg is going to be able to do with this little flock of mutas. Hatching a few more. Is heading up to that 11 count, so we'll have to see if that maybe changes things a bit. Meanwhile, Stardust adding on extra gateways. And another Stargate to counter this 3 hatchery mutalist play. Even a 4th cannon. Meanwhile, CudleZerg flying the flock around, desperately trying to look for any damage that he can since he rushed out these mutalist play. Is opting to make his another hatchery too. However, losing mutas left and right to these cannons. Pretty weak from engaging with the Corsairs from earlier. And meanwhile, Stardust attacking, trying to take out these mutalists. However, CudleZerg keeping them unstacked currently. Does have a flock of Zerglings and that Sunken from earlier, keeping this small Protoss army from advancing. Does have some Scourge coming in, however, is able to take out one Corsair. And the Mutalist trying to chase down the other. Meanwhile, these Zerglings sort of fighting back Stardust's force. However, Stardust immediately microing around and destroying them. Corsair, 6 HP basically left. Meanwhile, Mutaflock returning back to the natural to push back the Protoss army again. More Corsairs popping out, 2 at a time now from those Stargates. CudleZerg's position is looking desperate. Does have his other natural up, however, immediately scouted by that probe. And these Corsairs constantly grouping and then ungrouping as the situation calls. Very annoying to play against as a human player. And Stardust also shutting down this natural as it basically finishes. The mutas are rushing over, however, these Zerglings should not be able to really hold on to this Protoss army. They will require some muta attention. And meanwhile, Stardust creating the third, putting some cannons down. Still sitting on the 5 gateways and 2 stargates, however. Has not even added the Templar archives yet. Meanwhile, fights all over the place. Corsairs killing Mutalisks. Zerglings fighting back Zealots and Dragoons, but not for very long. And this Corsair flock is going to immediately destroy this Mutaflock. There was no chance they had against that. And with that, these Corsairs should basically have free reign to take out CudleZerg's overlords. Speedlings immediately basically being annihilated. And now with that, moving in with the army of the Protoss, +1 finished. Corsair flock basically annihilating all of the overlords. CudleZerg, I imagine, will be GGing very shortly. In fact, GGing right there. GG. Stardust easily deflecting CudleZerg's 3-hatch mutaplay and sealing the deal with double Stargate brings Team Megabyte a point and ties up the series. CrossToss, though, fights Halo next on Power Bond. How will Halo attempt to take down this boss toss? Let's find out together, starting now. And starting off the match on Power Bond, first time we've seen this in the league play or even in event matches, we have Halo spawning in the 10 o'clock and CrossToss spawning in the 2 o'clock. CrossToss on a bit of a win streak, not only in PvT but overall. Let's see if Halo will be the one to silence that win streak. Both players just doing their standard thing. No crazy proxies, it looks like, from either player. Imagine we'll see that first pylon coming out of CrossToss here shortly. And of course a depot for Halo coming soon. Coming soon to a theater near you. Opting for the wall off. And CrossToss sending out that probe. Maybe hoping to catch some sort of gas steal or something. Very rare for a Protoss otherwise to send out a pylon scout. However, going to the wrong starting position. Not only will he not find Halo there, he will not be able to steal his gas. Meanwhile, Halo sending out his own scouting SUV and finishing off his wall off with the barracks. CrossToss, gateway about 50% done. Was not able to find Halo there, now opting to go to the other starting location. And Halo even has an SCV holding on the ramp to potentially try to fight off any probe incursions. Meanwhile, gas started for CrossToss and as well for Halo. CrossToss finally reaching the natural of Halo will be able to see that that barracks is almost completed. And Halo as well, popping in. Maybe not seeing CrossToss, unsure why the SCV would pop in and then leave like that. Maybe deciding that he's got enough scouting intel. And that SCV and probe are fighting just a tiny bit. CrossToss playing merry-go-round with the SCV. Oh, does he notice? Is he gonna? Oh no, he's not gonna be. Wait! Oh my god! He glitches the probe through the barracks. Is able to get into Halo's main and see everything that is going on. Barracks now landing again, adding on a factory. Meanwhile, CrossToss have completed the core, added on range. And meanwhile, Halo still only one factory, adding on another depot. Has taken SCVs out of the gas, though, maybe indicating that he wants to try to expand. And for some reason, the Marine manning the wall instead of chasing down this probe. Meanwhile, CrossToss adding on a robotics facility. More Marines being created. And the factory finished. Is he going to add on the machine shop? Is immediately adding on the machine shop. I gotta imagine we're going to be seeing some sort of siege expand coming out. Robotics facility, 50% done. Range for goons, about 60% done. And about 60% on that first Dragoon in the gateway. CrossToss, adding his natural expansion now. Meanwhile, still has not had his probe cleared out of Halo's main. Is able to see basically everything, scouting out these two Marines patrolling at the wall. Halo finally adding on the SCVs back to his gas, however, has not created any sort of command center or anything that would seem to indicate reasons why he would take those workers off gas originally. Meanwhile, we have a robotic support bay. Going to be seeing Reavers. CrossToss opting for the Reaver option. Does still only have the one gateway. And Nexus about 75% done. That tank, though, is finished and sieged up. Pushing away this goon, however, didn't really I felt threatened much by one goon, in our opinion. Does have a second factory almost 60% of the way done. And the Reaver started up about 30% done. Does have more goons coming out, and that Nexus is finished with probes moving in. Second siege tank out, sieging up the main. Is gonna immediately snipe that probe as it comes by. And finally throwing down this command center, maybe waiting to kill that probe before it threw down the command center. Researching mines for vultures. Meanwhile, two goons at the front and adding on a second gateway. And a third gateway. With the Reaver already finished. However, no shuttle speed just yet. However, we do see Citadel of Adun coming up. Are we going to see potentially a follow-up DT drop, or is he just getting that for the Zealot legs? Do have a little push here from some Zealots and Marines. Or, Vultures and Marines. Vulture immediately taken down by that goon. However, these Marines microing around and will kill off that goon. Second CC, about 80% done. We do have some non-stop Vulture and tank production out of these two factories. And oh my god, the Reaver dropping is able to start annihilating this worker line. Halo refusing to run these workers away. Losing bunches to 3 to 5 probes, SCVs every time this Reaver fires off. Down to 12 workers now from about high 20s. 9 workers. Down to 8 workers. Halo immediately deciding, unsieging. However, is not going up to his mineral line to clear this Reaver out. Instead, moving all the way out to go attack CrossToss. Vulture planning mines to keep track of expansions. We do have the natural CC finally landed. However, Halo with only 6 workers and a very small bank. Not sure what he can do. Marines finally reaching that natural. Is going to pull one of those goons out in front, which does cause Halo to siege up just to kill it. However, this Reaver is still alive. With 30 kills. 32 kills. 33 kills. However, Halo finally at the natural is going to siege up. CrossToss only really has 5 Dragoons, pulling those back into his main, and deciding to finally fly the Reaver back home to help out. Is pulling some Zealots back, probably a bad rally. Halo moving up with a few more tanks, sieging up this natural nexus and the workers. Is one more goon down there. However, dying to siege tanks. Reaver, unfortunately, flying over those Marines. Luckily, the shuttle only taking some shield damage. And Halo destroying the natural nexus. Will he be able to take out CrossToss with this one push? CrossToss, though, loading up the shuttle with the Zealots, leaving the Reaver on the high ground. Halo, unfortunately, bunching his tanks up very much, considering he's about to deal with the Zealot bomb. And meanwhile, still flying all around, trying to remake SCVs. Does have a beautiful Zealot bomb coming out, immediately surrounding all of that tank surface area, blowing everything up and reducing Halo to even less. Remaking the natural nexus now. Both players taking a bit of economic damage, however, Halo on the worst end of it, basically down to 13 workers. Meanwhile, CrossToss able to save maybe a little bit of those workers at the end, but losing the natural expansion. And he does have a Stargate. We'll have to see what he wants to do with that. Meanwhile, Reaver's going back for more harassment. HaloBot moving up random units. However, unable to push this natural, as these units will completely destroy these random units all over the place. Meanwhile, the Reaver still blowing things up. Ooh, almost made that one dud. Going now to the natural, since there seem to be more workers there. Trying to see, unfortunately lost count. That Reaver has to be 40s, 50s kills. $42 kills. 44 kills. $48. 49. And 50. Is making a few more rounds of units and does have that natural nexus finally up and running with more workers. However, Halo losing all of the workers in his main. CrossToss clearing out any mines on the way to the base. I imagine with that signifies a push has got to be coming soon. However, this Reaver now got to be in the mid-50s for kills. $59 kills. Now in the 60s. Halo refusing to GG. Meanwhile, CrossToss finally moving out with all of his units. And he does have a scout even coming out as well, trying to tell Halo, get out of my game. Meanwhile, Reaver going back to link up with the Protoss army as it intros Halo's natural. And that scout making its way into the Protoss, or excuse me, into the Terran main. Destroying everything. Halo responding, flying the CC away. However, the scout immediately focusing it down with the goons. 61 kills on that Reaver. And with that, I got him. Yep. HaloBot. GG's. CrossToss putting down Halo's economy, and although taking some damage in return from Halo's counter push, stops it dead in its tracks, continuing his win streak not only overall but also in PvT. Will CudleZerg seal the series for the Joes in the next match, or will tscmoo pull them back to an ace match? Time to put it all on the line, starting now. And for potentially game point, we have tscmoo representing Team Megabyte in the top left, 11 o'clock position, and CudleZerg representing the Average Joes in the bottom left, 5 o'clock position. tscmoo, again, will he be able to pull his team back into the game, take this to an ace match, or will CudleZerg just seal this right now? So far, drones, and SCVs. So far, about 6 so workers for each player. Overlord going in the wrong direction. However, tscmoo floating a little bit of minerals right there. And opting for a 9 racks. Is tscmoo looking to get a little aggressive here? Meanwhile, CudleZerg opting for the Overlord on 9. Immediately making more drones. Going to that 12 hatch. And meanwhile, still no depot at a depot halfway finished for tscmoo. Gas just started, and that rack's about 80% done. Meanwhile, CudleZerg just now taking his natural hatchery. A little late on that. And tscmoo possibly checking for any overlords that may be coming into the main. Looks like this was actually a defensive 5 racks. tscmoo not really looking like he wants to get aggressive with this, just mainly possibly trying to fight off any early Zergling rushes that might have come. However, CudleZerg actually opting for the economic opening. Is sending out a drone. Overlord, unfortunately, now realizing it did scout the wrong way. However, second try is always the best try, because CudleZerg will be able to find the opponent very quickly with this drone. Meanwhile, tscmoo just adding on Marines. Does have the gas, however, after mining 100 gas for the factory, it has opted to stop mining gas. Just now adding 1 SCV and 2 more SCVs back in for a total of 3. CudleZerg able to immediately confirm that it's some Marines and Vultures that he's going to be have to dealing with probably soon. tscmoo pushing out that drone. Immediately going back to the mineral line. CudleZerg opting to hide the drone behind the mineral line to see when the natural expansion might be coming. Other than that, does have a 3rd hatchery started and just making drones. Hasn't even made any lings or anything. Does have a sunken morphing, however. And tscmoo adding on the 2nd factory. Has ceased marine production. Probably see a vulture immediately coming out of this factory. Instead, opting to make the machine shop. And we do have a Hydralisk Den just finishing for CudleZerg. Opting for the 3-hatch Hydra play once again against these Terran bots. tscmoo floating his factories, but adding on a 3rd factory once again. Has added the machine shop with the original factory that he created, and a vulture popping out of the 2nd. Adding on an armory as well. Has the typical defense, Vultures, Marines at the front. Meanwhile, CudleZerg just adding more and more drones and a couple Hydras. And tscmoo actually sees those Hydras immediately as they pop out. How will he respond? He does have spider mines being researched. So far, opting, it looks like, to instead just take his natural expansion. Has the armory completed, however not researching any upgrades currently, is adding the engineering bay, possibly expecting lurkers. However, so far, this looks like a pure Hydra play. Finally getting all the drones that he needs at the natural. Probably switch immediately into pure Hydraless production. Yep. And range, almost finished. Speed, already finished. Not researching +1 though currently. And meanwhile, tscmoo opting to place a ton of mines at his front natural. Is unfortunately maybe gonna be the death of all of these Hydras. Meanwhile, Vultures poking in, immediately pushed away by these Hydras. And those Hydras opting not to finish that Vulture, but is heavily damaging it. Mole Vultures adding mines in the path of these Hydras. We'll have to see if that's going to be tscmoo's savior, because currently he does not have a lot to fight these Hydras. In fact, these Vultures diving on there and immediately dying. Mines left and right coming down, finally connecting, blowing up that flank of Hydras. However, CudleZerg does end up losing that against that third mine, but was able to pick off quite a few mines on his way up with these Hydralists. And that Goliath finishing off that last Hydra. However, more reinforcements slowly but surely making their way up. And CudleZerg opting to just take out these Vultures and waste these hurt Hydras on these mines. Oh. And this one Vulture planting several mines. However, CudleZerg immediately focusing them as they are laid down. And now starting to work on this bunker that tscmoo is desperately trying to get up. tscmoo making a lot of turrets in his front. Again, probably expecting lurkers. However, these Hydras just keep pushing their way through. And now, with the 4th factory being added on, and these other factories having their machine shops being added on, what is tscmoo going to do? I mean, he has no real combat units to fight these Hydralists, and these Hydralists are about to blow up these factories before the machine shops even finish. And more Hydras coming up. If one of them maybe goes just a little bit too far right, could see potentially a comeback started. However, so far, all of them able to go and keep to the left on the way to rally up. And that tank able to take down a couple Hydras, but immediately being picked off afterwards. Does have a machine shop being upgraded with Goliath range. However, not really going to help in this situation, as there's not really anything to hit in the air. CudleZerg killing off another factory. Killing off the machine shops. Killing out all the units that immediately they pop out. tscmoo in just a really, really terrible situation. And that tank, again, immediately blown up as soon as it comes out. tscmoo, though, does have a couple Vultures left with spider mines. If he can maybe play his cards right, you know, maybe they'll help him out there. But currently, CudleZerg just plowing right through everything that tscmoo has. And tscmoo losing this factory. Losing this factory. And those vultures doing all they can to not get involved with these hydralisks. And with the SCVs falling, I gotta imagine a GG is coming out here soon. Oh, in fact, yes, GG! CudleZerg seals the series for the Average Joes 3-1 against Team Megabyte with an hyper-aggressive Hydra play in ZVT, also continuing his win streak in ZVT. As always, thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to help us grow, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube algorithm stuff. Be sure to also tune in for Thursday, November 30th, when the Joes will take on Team HAL 9000. Have a good night.